Let's make a duck. So tonight, to show you how to actually really navigate and really model some slightly more complex things with the form modeling workspace, we're going to start with a pretty universal example: is modeling a duck. So, and essentially, the reason this works really well is because we're modeling from two separate objects we're going to join together, much like we did for the spoon object for the spoon model. And this works quite well. Now, with this example, there are also options for, of course, making canvases. So with this, I was trying to use the canvases to model a hat. But of course, there's also, if I press the right things, there's also, of course, ducks and things like that. So if you want, you can, of course, import images. With this being a three-dimensional object, I highly recommend, if you can, find two separate images of different dimensions. Best thing you can do is go onto your search engine and type in whatever you're looking for, even if it's just a general reference like rubber duck. Try to look for it or make sure you also add in like rubber duck image, front, side, top, things like that. Now, of course, with this being a rubber duck, you're going to get like, stock images, that sort of thing. But that will allow you to at least have some reference images. From here, you can then, of course, use the calibration tools, which again, once you have it imported by simply going to the insert canvas, or which is this symbol up here already on the top of your bar, you can just pick the plane. You have to pick the object first, pick the plane, plop it in, just like we've been doing, which is simply find an image. And let's see here. I got all kinds of silliness. There we go. Rubber duck, all that kind. But we'll get to that in a second. I just want to go over that real quick in a moment. But reference images are extremely helpful just to help build out. You can size it to whatever you want, and remember, you can resize things. So again, the examples we're going for are things like that have an accessory. So something in effect of like this little fancy dino with a top hat and or also a feather in his cap. That also works. This has little recesses in the sides. You could have recesses through, or they push outward. You can, of course, use the EMBOSS/DBOSS tool. Little spines on the back. And another example I had was using this for a little dinosaur that is, of course, diagonalizing on its surfboard because it craves the waves. There you go. But to start, let's do that. Let's start an actual a fresh image and project so we can work from that. So when you start a new project, one of the things I want to bring up is, yes, Fusion is still forcing you to decide how you want to start this thing and a thing, but you can change this. There's a new option. So the default is hybrid design that we're using. That allows you to make multiple components right off the bat. Make sure you do hybrid design. If you want to change this, or you want to make this, please stop asking. I would like this to be the default. That's finally an option. If you go all the way to the upper right-hand corner where it has your initials for your account, left click, go down to Preferences, and you have to select down here, but it should be under the General tab. And if you look down just about midway to the beginning screen, it will show default design type. Select hybrid design, and it should, every time it opens, start that. Same thing goes for opening design, but hopefully that actually sticks because it hasn't always been, or it hasn't been all the time. You can also make some changes here, like if you wanted to, instead of like matching whatever you got going, it could automatically go into like dark mode and anything like that. So you can make those changes. This is where all those options would be, as well as like some of the other things of like automatically bringing things up, anything like that. But just wanted to show you specifically for how you can at least make whatever your design is, that's going to be the new default design, and hopefully it stops bringing up that pop-up. Make sure to hit OK, and that should be good to go. Of course, I just made that change. I hit new thing, and it doesn't automatically get rid of the screen, but at least it automatically selects hybrid design. So when I create new, yay, it already does it. So believe you me, there's lots of complaints on the forums already. So hopefully they'll be changing that. All right. Anyhow, just wanted to show you that part. If you already downloaded your duck pictures, you can go to Canvas and import Canvas from your computer. I have my little duck pictures. You don't have to work from this, but it certainly works. So I have one at the front here. Open. I'm going to select what will become the front view. So in my view, it's the XZ plane, and it will bring it straight up. One quick thing as I zoom in, obviously that is not correct. So I at least want to rotate this 90 degrees. And if you want, you can also move it up and down however you prefer to work. If you want the duck to be smack in the middle, if you want it to be a little bit up, that's fine. Remember, it doesn't have to be the right size, just the correct orientation and location. We will change that afterwards. You do not have to do this, but references do help. Hit OK. If I want to now make it the correct size I want to work with, I go open the drop down for canvases and right click on the canvas image I'm using, calibrate, and now pick 2 points, which will be on mine. Not the top of the image, but the top of the duck itself and the bottom. That says that number is 10 millimeters and then some. And we just said maximum is like 60 millimeters. All right, well, let's type in 50. Much bigger, but there you go. Obviously, you can change this around a little bit, but we're going to use this as just a reference. Your model does not have to match the pictures. In this case, if you were modeling that way, this would be the way to work it. But like the example here does, if you can find a side image, that works excellent as well. The trick is trying to align the two, and you will just have to move up, down, left, right, that sort of thing to try to align the two. That's all. So I just have a little rubber ducky image there. Why is this tumbling like this now? One moment.
That's because you changed you're on Calibrate design. The design's supposed to be there.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, so we fixed that. What I didn't realize is somehow the orbit options got changed. So why it was tumbling as I orbited rather than just moving around. If you go down to the center of the screen, your options down here, where it says now constrained orbit, click the little arrow and it'll give you the options. Somehow mine had changed over to free orbit. So constrained orbit is the one you want. That keeps it from tumbling all over and maintains up, down, that sort of orientation. Okay, cool. We actually have that. With that in mind, let's save this. And I will save mine as I'm using the 00. You do not. Ducky. I think I typed duckly. Anyhow, okay, so we have our canvas image. We have it sized. If you have more than one image, you can certainly work from more than one side at a time. But I'm just working from the center or from the front one. That's fine. Okay, so now we start with the actual adding some objects. Like I said, we're using the form tools for the standard. So go to the form tool, the little pink gumball or the little purple gumball with a plus. We're going to start with whatever makes sense to you. For this model, I'm going to use a square or the box and a sphere, not a quad ball, a sphere. You can use whatever makes sense to you, but I'm going to recommend box or maybe even quad ball for the body, but I'm going to stick with box. So I'm selecting the box tool. As usual, it asks you to select a plane to work from. I'm going to begin by working from the side. So if I turn from the side, my just straightforward image kind of disappears, but I want the YZ plane, so the green and blue. And smack in the middle. And let's just kind of build it what makes sense. If we're making it a maximum of like 60 millimeters, so let's go wider, make it a little bit shy, maybe like 50 by, I don't know, like, let's just say by default, let's say 50 by 20. Does not have to be exact. We're just going with something. Now, before you hit OK, I hate that it does this. I type that in and then it doesn't stay put. Before you do not hit enter, just click. One of the issues here is, see if I'm looking from the front, it's all to the side of the plane. I want it smack in the middle. So I have my toolbox here. If you want, you can change it back 60 by 20. I don't know why it was doing that. That's very frustrating. But if you go down to where it says direction. Go to from one side to symmetric. Watch what happens. Now it's snapped. Now I'm working both sides of the origin plane. That's what you want. So otherwise, I'm going to be if I didn't, everything would be lopsided. Also, I can turn on symmetry. We used before mirror symmetry. You're trying to find it, toggle through. It's not length, it's not width, it's height. See how the green line appears and it's split down the middle? That is what I want. I want that to be symmetry so that anything I do to one side does the same to the other. Good. Now you can hit OK. If you can make it smaller, whatever. But also one thing, if you already hit OK, that's okay. We can always change it up. But I'm going to keep this simple for now with just the two faces, length and width. Do not add too much. I'm going to turn my box into a multi-slice Twinkie if I do. Let's just keep it simple for now. At max, you could do like 3 or 4, but I would keep it at the 2 for now. Keep it simple. Okay. Now if we're looking at it from the front, let's move that down a little bit. Yes.
What button combination do I press so it can show the face again?
One moment.
Okay.
And just for clarification, the question was that somebody's image wasn't showing the sides. If you get that, if you're not seeing the face lines and all that, just go down to the monitor symbol, the display settings, visual style, and I'm using shaded with visible edges only, because if you do with hidden edges, you see straight through it and it kind of gets a little bit visually overwhelming. I'd stick with just visible edges only. That way you're not seeing through your object. Okay. Since I only have the straight on view, that's fine. But I do want to move this into position. So I'm going to select that. You can double click that object, press M on your keyboard, the letter M, to bring up the move tool. And I'm just dragging it down. My duck is definitely not centered exactly, but it's pretty close. So I'm just bringing that down so it's about where I want it to be. And hit OK. That's all. All right. I'm going to switch back to my right-hand view. One of the things with working with a modeling space, if you want, it might be better to work in multi-view because we are trying to keep track of things. If you want, if you go either, you can go to the bottom here. So the right-hand one, where it says viewports, switch to multi-views, where it also says the hotkey is press and hold shift, and then press the number 1 or exclamation point, and that will toggle between single view and multi-view. Some people prefer to work this way. Others find it to be overwhelming. I prefer to work this way when I'm working myself, but since we are used to now working this way, there it is. But it's difficult to keep track of everything at once. So with that in mind, we're just going to work one side at a time. So moving to the right side, right view, I didn't find the other picture. If you do, great. From the side, you would have the same kind of idea of, yep, it's kind of like a little bit of a sweep up to the back, but it's kind of like a somewhat egg shape. Let's keep that in mind as we make our other ducky. This is a bit blocky, like a block of soap, so let's change that up. The main tool we're going to be using is the Form Edit tool. If you use the drop down, it's the very top one, but it's also this symbol that has a little curved face and the little 3 arrows symbol. So you can go straight to it. Like we worked with before, manipulate either by faces, by edges, or vertices, and you can free transform, you can scale, you can do all the things to them. This kind of allows you to do all the things. So let's start squishing it up. So select the Edit Form tool, and I probably shouldn't have made this all the way as long as it is, or if you did, whatever. If you decide you want to squish it around, okay, let's double click the whole thing, and remember that it's these in-between things, the lines, not the square, not the arrows, not the arc, the in-between, these are your scale tools. I'll use the vertical one, and that scales left and right, and I can squish it back and forth. So that is not altering the width, just the length at the moment. If you did a little curve one, that's a 2-dimensional scale. I don't want that. So I'm just squishing it down a wee bit so it's a little bit more easier to work with, or it already seems a little bit more what I want. Okay, now your preferences are going to be just that. Going forward, you might choose, I like working more with the vertices. You would select by vertex. So maybe you prefer to work by edges, which selecting on the selection filter toolbox, you can only select edges. By faces, you can only select faces, or you can select all the things. It's entirely up to you. Some things work better depending on what you are doing, but some things also just might become your preferences, your style of modeling. For what I'm going to do now, I am going to select, we'll go by edge. So you would like, isolate your toolbox where it says selection filter by edge. And now I can only select the edges. Now, since I have symmetry on, if I select this one, and I'm just going to turn to the side for a moment, you don't have to do this. If I drug this outward, you can see it happening to both sides. That's how I mean with the symmetry. This works a lot better that way. With just individual selecting, you're only selecting one side. But by selecting by edge, that actually works quite well. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, kind of think I want all of the edges here at the back. So I'm going to use a selection box. If I select from the left going downward, but I'm only selecting that back end, my from the left selection box only selects what is entirely inside of the box. So even though my selection box was out here and it's covering the rest of the lines, the rest of the box, like basically half, it's only selecting the very back end. Great. I'm going to use the rotate and just turn it a little bit. So I'm going to kind of start to get that little tail section, a little sweep up. It started tilting down a little bit more. So I'm going to select by the square. That's the pan tool, free transform. And I can just kind of squish it around however I want. We're trying to get that kind of sort of sweep up look. I didn't change it much, so now I just kind of have a little bit of an angle. I am not worrying about what it looks like from the front or the top right now. Keep it isolated to one single view. I'll do something similar for the front. I'll make a selection box from the left, going right and down. Now that's selecting only what's in the front. I think this one I'm going to use the scale tool. So I select the horizontal bar, drag it upward, and you can see how it's dragging, it's scaling everything up and down. So I'm just trying to get that whole, like, kind of, well, bird side. Okay. Well, now we're to the point to where I want something of that little sweep up for my tail. And I just didn't have the other image already on hand. I should have to be able to import it into this side. So we're just freehanding it. Okay. Well, how do I get that up? Let's go to edit form. Because you didn't have to click away, I had to. And I want just that edge. So if I select one, it's going to select the other. Good. Click and hold the square between. That's the free transform. We can drag it upward. But you're not really getting like an isolation. It's dragging everything. That's okay. But I kind of want it to be a little bit more just the tail. So if you want to isolate this, hit OK. And what I'm going to do is, like I said, make it simple first and add complexity. So how this works, just like if you're bending a piece of metal or anything like that, if you just have something in the middle, you can't really flex everything. But if you want a sharp bend, I'm not going to bend just my ruler here, you need more than one point, right? How about that really bent one? So what I need to do, oh, that's a Sharpie, don't use that. So if I want to make this curve that just has that one line across, if I want that to be sharper, I need to add something to bend against, and that would be another line. So I'm going to use the next one over, which is insert edge, or if you go down to modify, it's just the next one down, insert edge. But what this does is it inserts an edge line, because you've got faces, edges, and vertices, based on your selection line. And I want that same line that I was just playing with. So right here in the back, and you can see a green line appears. You can do a single line, Or if you go down to the middle selection where it says insertion side, single or both, now there's a line on either side. It's up to you. And how this works is it says insert location 0.5. What that means is kind of like scale, it's a factor. The original line that you selected is 0. The next lines over, whatever that might be, is 1. So if I was going this way, it would be -1. So if it's smack in the middle, it's 0.5. So if you want it closer or farther, you can either click and drag the scale or this slider, and it'll get closer and farther, or you can type it in numerically. For me, for this one, I'm just going to leave it right at 0.5. That works well. Now that's going to change things, but now you have more ways to isolate things. Insert edge is an excellent way to add complexity to your form object after you've gotten the general shape down. Now that I have this, I'm going to go back to edit form. And now I'm going to select by face because I want to start playing with these faces. I know, right? Always creepy. So now that I've got the face down, this I can tweak around a little bit more, and you see how everything kind of stays put a little bit more? That's because we added an edge in. This allows me to get more what I want. I can rotate and get more toward. I still want that tail a little bit more pointy, but I'm going to pause there, check on. But being able to add insert edge, add edges allows me to add more complexity to a simplified form. If you start with way too many faces, too many edge lines, it gets way too overwhelming to get a general form first. So get to that point, and we'll go from there.
My favorite is
all right. So we've got the duck kind of sort of soap bar style. What I want to show you next is you can actually extrude faces directly from this. And this is how you can actually start to really manipulate forms. If you press and while this face tool and while the edit form tool is selected, and I have by face, not by vertex, not by edge, by face, because I have to have a face to extrude this way. If you press and hold Alt, now move. Oops, did I tell you the wrong one? There it is. You can actually extrude outward. If you let go, do it again, press and hold Alt, then move, it will extrude another face. However, if you rotate around, I have made an extended duck butt. To avoid this, you have to select, even though I have by face here, I'm going to need to change to select by all because you have to include both faces and that intermediate edge. So let me Control Z. And if I again turn to the side, first thing I want to do is change my selection tool from just faces to all, because I need to also select the edge line in between. Now I can select, and it works much better if you do a select all box. So if you select from the right and go left, see the yellow box with the blue dots, blue dotted line, dash line, that is to select everything that touches. So I'm still within those the edges, but now it selects the face, both faces, and the line between. That's the important part. So now press and hold Alt, and you could use the arrow tools or just the free transform. Now it extrudes as a single entity and not duck butt. Unless that's what you want, more power to you. So now you can extrude faces. You can also extrude edges, but we'll get to that later. And now I can manipulate that. I can turn it. I can scale it. Woo. However works, whatever you want to do. Again, I'm working from one side. But you can grab a face, press and hold Alt. That works, and I think it's Command on Mac. But you can do the same on both platforms, and you can manipulate and add complexity this way as well. And it's a great way to start really sculpting with the form workspace. From here, I'm just going to kind of tweak this a little bit. I want to change, like this kind of is kind of a little bit higher up than I want. So I'm going to select the edges. You can see I'm kind of working around here. I'm just going to work to kind of flatten that down a little bit, something to that effect. Maybe I need to rotate it. Careful that you don't go too far, but I'm just kind of rotating things. I'm playing with form. I'm playing with tools just to get about where I want. And that's going to be a lot of this project, about what you want, especially for what we're doing right here. All right, so I was able to add that face there. Excellent. It's about what I want. So I'm going to save there. Duck. Tail. Yeah, because I tried to type TALE because that's exactly what my head overrode as. All right, so I did not have the other side, the other image, but I do want to have a bit more of a squishiness to my duck rather than a shaved bar of soap. So now I'm going to look at it from the front where I do have an image going, and I'm just going to stretch this out. Now, you can, again, switch to edit form, and I could do, say, like grab a couple of edges, and this is where I say it sometimes helps to work from multi-views, and I can just drag that outward, or I could select all the things and use the scale tool, drag it outward. That's a bit much. Or we can kind of split the difference. Let's select a couple of faces, and I can drag that outward. Getting there. Maybe I like that, maybe I don't. What if I rotate those now a little bit? Something to that effect. Any of this kind of stuff is going to work fine. We can obviously add complexity later, but for now, I'm just going to leave that as is. If I had added more vertical faces, you'd have a little bit more to play with. Or like we just talked about, if you really want more complexity, go to Insert Edge, and we'll select just those. I don't think I want that much, so I'll just go to Single and hit OK. Now I have a bit more. Or you can double that up however you want. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to keep this simple for now. So it's a bit more bar of soap. That's fine. Turning back to the side, or just looking at it again, the front's kind of a little goofy. I think I'm going to do one more little tweak here. I'm going to select that edge and just drag that inward a little bit. That's all. Not that much to it. Again, a lot of this is going to be preference. All right, we'll just say duck body works there. Good for now. Okay, let's put a head on our duck. I'm going to use the sphere tool. I'm going to align it so that the north and south poles are horizontal and basically turn into my eyes. So I'm going to select the sphere tool, not the quad ball, the sphere tool. I'm going to orbit to the side, and I'm going to select the same plane that I made the body on, the YZ plane. And I'm going to plop it somewhere up here. And you see how that already aligned? And then I'm going to just scale it up or size it up about where I like it. If you accidentally selected one of the other planes and your poles are facing straight along, that's okay. You can simply move that. So we'll do that in a minute. But while the tool is still up here, I'm going to apply symmetry. Go to mirror. I want height. The green lines match up. Nice. If you accidentally selected the front plane and you're looking straight down at it, all I have to do is use the move tool, press M, the letter M on your keyboard, select the object, and the arc tool there. So like if I accidentally did that and it's looking straight on, I'll look at it from above and just rotate. So if you accidentally ended up with it like this, let's rotate it so that 90 degrees so that the poles are pointing left and right. That's all. I hit cancel because it's just one of the same. Okay. So for looking on, we can certainly morph this around a little bit. We're going to do the same thing. If this is in the way, if your bodies are in the way, hide the bottom one that is the body of the duck, and then we just isolate from just the head. Again, we're going to use the edit form tools and just make it about what you want. So let's say from the sides, I'm going to select my edges this time. So if I double click, that selects all the way around that latitudinal line or the whole orbit there. And from there, I can do just like we did for the spoons. We can drag this out. But if you don't select, if you only select the one, you end up with a super weird tube thing. I don't know. Maybe you got like a bug-eyed duck. That's up to you. It's entirely up to you. Or if you, from the front, select all of them, you can warp it outward, get all that. We're just reshaping things. So the top of the head doesn't really matter. You can do stuff with it later. If you rotate 90 degrees, now we're going to get more of like duck head thing going. Because with this, it's kind of all about profile. So if you didn't reshape it from the front, that's okay. We'll make it match later. From the side, however, let's warp it around a little bit. So first thing that kind of feels right, let's add a bill to it. This is definitely where the edit form comes in. If I want to select by face, or I'm sorry, by edge, I only end up a little bit, but I can drag it forward and kind of turn it into a teardrop shape. That works pretty quickly, but I think might work better to select by face, and I'm going to grab that entire face and drag it forward. Kind of gets a little bit more pigeon-headed. Good. But, again, it's kind of a little bit more. So let's shrink it down, and I can start to turn this into a bill. If you decide, or if you end up doing the whole thing, this whole face, that's fine too. Drag it outward, scale it down, and you have that line already in between. It's up to you. It's entirely up to you. Again, if you want, you can turn this downward, upward. This is kind of turning into a bit more of a pigeon. My duck might become mildly more predatory. That's okay.
I think noises. They already
Exactly.
were 11
They're mildly aggressive already, or just severely aggressive. Or, like we did before, I'm going to click away just to clear my selection. If I select a from the right and select both the faces and the edge line, the in-between line, even though I have symmetry on, I have to also select that line between, and I cannot do that with faces only selected. So I have to change this back to all if I'm going to, if I'm going to extrude. So let's do that. Press and hold Alt. Yeah, this is definitely turning in slightly more predatory. But yeah, or that. Great. Now I've got the newt. So, ish. We're just playing around. Just something, but ultimately we're just trying to make that look more bill-like. Ideally, this is not turning into that. Anyway, if you want to shrink that bill back, maybe now switch back to edges. And I'm going to select all the edge lines around here. If I double click, it only got those, so I also want the top and bottom. So press and hold shift. Whoa, not what I meant to do. So I can get everything that's kind of at that baseline. And I'm going to drag that. Nope, not scale. I meant to drag that all backwards. Oof, this is quickly becoming unsettling. So, there we go. I'm attempting to straighten this back out, not doing great. If you are trying to isolate some elements, it might actually be better to switch to vertex. And I'm just going to just that one vertex, not select, not a selection box, although it doesn't really matter at this point. And I'm going to drag that backwards, and I'm trying to kind of align these a little bit. And you can see what's happening to the face. Ooh, this is not becoming a duck very quickly. Or becoming not a duck very quickly. Whatever.
It's a plague duck.
Exactly. Plague duck it is. It's your duck, whatever you make it into. Okay. So we're just playing with this a little bit, trying to get the face more bill-like. My original example, much more adorable. This one quickly becoming not that at all. Where is the... There we are. So you can see that was just dragging a face out, and that's all. This one is becoming unnerving. Anyhow, so we have some very basic, we'll just say duck-like features. We'll just say it. It's very quickly becoming more Tim Burton than it is like Rubber Ducky. Whatever. But you can continue to reshape this as much as you please, but that's pretty much what we're going to try and do. We're going to try to isolate this stuff a little bit, but yeah, that's more like a crow now. Whatever. You want a rubber crow? That's much better. Here you go. Okay, exactly. Just little kid in the just walk in, the little kid in the bath and just quietly mumbling to themselves, "Nevermore." That's far more unnerving. All right. Now we have a duck head. All right. So we want to join these together. Now, we can do a lot with this, but we're going to do a bit of a combination like we did with the spoon, and we're going to still use the bridge tool. However, the bridge tool works on faces, yes, but face edges. So the edge lines. In order to do that, you cannot bridge two solid or at least enclosed bodies together. There has to be an opening. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to align these. So where about do I want those? Yeah, that's kind of sort of about the alignment I want. However, I need to open these bodies up. Never doesn't sound strange. I'm going to select by face. So if I select on one, and let me hide the canvas for a moment. If I select on one side of the body or of the mirror line, it automatically selects the other. And I'm just going to press delete. And what you'll see when you delete a face, it automatically kind of rounds out that hole. That was a very angular corner or face defined by the corner edges. But when I hit delete, it kind of rounds them out. That's a really convenient way of instantly rounding out a place where you want to add an appendage or neck, whatever. I need to do the same down here. However, if I select this face, that deletes a rather significant chunk of my questionable duck form. So I need to insert an edge to shrink that up a little bit. So I'm going to go to insert edge, select the front. It'll automatically do it to both, even if it's not showing. And I just want one side, so insertion side is just single. Yeah, the 50, the 0.5, that works well. Hit OK. Didn't really change much, but now I can make, now when I delete this face, it's a much smaller area. So I'm selecting those areas and just pressing delete. Automatically rounds it out. Okay. Now I need these to kind of match. From the side, great. From the front, we got like Spider-Man Kingpin thing going here. So we need to kind of resize these holes to make them kind of sort of match. So again, back to Form Edit. And I'm going to go by edge. And if you double click the opening now, it selects the entire ring. And what I'm going to do is knock the phone off the hanger.
Drop that. And
I'm going to use the scale tool because that'll just shrink everything together. However, I want to use just the one-dimensional scale. So if you zoom in, it doesn't really change the size of the tool there. But you can see just those edge lines. And let me isolate this by going to the transform thing to just scale. There we go. You don't have to do this. It just makes it easier to see what I'm doing. So remember just the lines around what are representing the planes. I'm just going to use the vertical one and move it left or right and shrink the whole thing to where it gets to be about a reasonable size. We might have to open up the head a little bit, but that's not terrible. Not good, but it's not terrible. So we're just trying to resize that hole to where they kind of match. They have to kind of match. And there you go. We'll hit OK. If you do need to, you can always arrange these a bit more. So like if it's not quite where you want it to be, I can go back to all the tools and like say, okay, one side is kind of curved down, one side is kind of flat. I can use the rotate and kind of get those to align. I can use the free transform to kind of move it around. You're just trying to get those to kind of get into position and align a little bit because we're going to use the bridge tool to bridge them together. So there you go. That's not bad. I'll hit OK. I'll definitely need to rework the chest here a little bit, anything like that. Or if I make the head a little bit bigger, again, mine are not really completely aligned, but that'll work. So I'll save there. Neck hold. And pause for a moment. All right. So we got our faces of the holes kind of aligned. Like I said, might need to widen the head hole here a little bit because you do want them to be about match. But In order to use the bridge tool under modify, I always lose my bridge right there. One of the main things is your faces, the number of faces have to match. So if you get a error that says cannot join periodic to non-periodic, usually that's also a because you have a mirror attached to one and not the other, so that effect. So meaning your symmetries might not be matching. That can happen. But one of the main things is the number of faces has to match. So if I select that, like we did with the spoon, I can zoom in and double click, and that'll select all around. But if I'm looking at it from the left or looking at it from the side here, let me just cancel this so you can see what I'm talking about. Even though these meet in the corner, that one doesn't count. So 1, 2, 3, that counts. Up here on the head, same here. This face and this face, even though they touch the edge, they do meet in a corner, and that doesn't count. So I have 1, 2, 3. 3 and 3, this will work, hopefully. Usually something comes up. So when I go to bridge, orbit over so you can see what I'm doing, I double click on one side, go to the tool, side 2, orbit up, whoops, so I can see what I'm doing. The head hole, double click. I'm not getting an error. Oh, no, I did get a little bit of an error. I don't know what. Both lines are yellow. My arrows are aligned. That's just showing the thing. Select preview. All right, it looks like it's a good join. Way too many faces. Let's dial that back down to 1. That should do. And hit OK. Hot dang. That is unnerving. But it did bridge. So the main thing with this, the periodic to non-periodic error is usually because you have mirror on or symmetry on one and not the other, something like that, or they don't match, something like that. But as long as they have the same number of faces on both sides, they can match. Well, what if I have too many on one and not the other? I could use insert edge to add an edge, or you can go in. This won't always work, but you can go in and just like right here, and delete an edge line, and it will delete that edge. It might cause errors, but we'll see. I'm going to Control Z that. I didn't need to delete that, so there we are. Now that I have these two joined, let me go ahead and save. Neck bridge. Now I can have a little bit better time morphing things around, but let me check and see where we are. Okay, so we've got our questionable duck shape, and they're joined together with the bridge. Now, here's where you're just going to kind of play around, get it more of what you want. So, like with this one, yeah, the front is definitely a little funky. So, for me, I'm going to go back to edit form. I'll double click by edge. Nah, that's bringing those, and maybe I'll shrink that in a little bit, or warp that a little bit, or I don't know. And this is by just playing around, just trying to get things about where you want. Maybe by vertex, if I drag that down and move that one back out, I can kind of start to get less terrible shapes. Totally up to you. Sometimes selecting by vertex will actually help with that rounded thing. Before the sides were a little bit flat because I was working by face and by edge, but by vertex, because it's a fit point spline, it's all spline geometry. Just by moving just the vertex out, and I'm selecting like down the way, I can get more of that pump body look rather than it being more battleship type. But again, it's your duck. You do what you want. Don't forget, you will need to move different views. So like with this one, all right, well, that's a bit much. So maybe I'll select all of these and drag it inward a little bit. That's actually less terrible. Again, this is entirely your, again, we'll say questionable duck. A couple of things I wanted to show real quick on this is we have our shape. Again, sure, why not? It's now slightly wider. Things that you can do to add some feature details. Things like, okay, I would like the tail to be a little bit sharper. Under modify, let me hide the canvas. Under modify, there is crease and uncrease. Obviously, uncrease undoes a crease. A crease is just like folding a piece of paper and actually folding it sharp instead of just bending. You can add a sharp crease. So if I select there, you select edge lines, and you can see how if I select just those edge lines there, the crease in the tail becomes just that, an actual sharp edge. Sometimes it will reconfigure things, and you'll have to address that as they go. But all right, now it looks like the back of a Spanish galleon kind of thing. But all right, so it's the nightmare duck of the Caribbean. Fine. So crease edge can flatten things out, all that sort. You can again, now that it is in this configuration and parts are joined, and I did not add additional faces between, I could go to say like edit form. Let me select the entirety of the head. Oh, not by vertex. I went by the whole body here. Just the top. Let's make it even more terrifying and drag the whole thing out and become a long. And there we go. I can even do things if now we're in this kind of, again, liminal space of ducks. Say I want to add, like, I want to drag, like, just the center line out to create a crest. I could select just the edge. However, if I select these and say, drag that outward, it's more of going to be, it's a little bit more than what I want it to be more defined. Okay, we'll Control Z that. And this is where things like the insert edge actually work very nicely. Let's go to double input. So it's on both sides. And we'll go most of the way up the head. All right. Let's drag that line a little bit closer to the center edge. And hit OK. Now I have an isolated area here. Now when I go to edit form, and let's try dragging that edge line up and around again. And we'll now this time drag it up and out. I now have that line in between that sharpens it up. Or if you want, scale it. Be careful of down at the bottom because I've just created a intersection there, so that's not going to work. But this is how you would create that effect.
If the giraffe had a mohawk, would it look like this or like that?
You mean it would look even cooler? There you go. So one thing that does come up, and this is going to be a prime area for the next step, is I can already see this down here is a problem because it's self-intersecting. So once you get done playing or adding nightmare features or just pretty cool features, that's not going to work very well. It'll tip right over. But anyhow, we're going to go to, once you're finished, we're going to go to finish form. This is where errors pop up. So it's telling me T-spline failed to convert. I definitely have an issue. I already knew I was going to, but there we go. It's going to tell you to return. If you continue, it won't delete it, but it will just not convert to an object. So let's go back in there. And if I'm trying to finish form here, yep, return. So let's work at a couple of options here. Now, I already know what the problem is, so it'll be easy to fix. But what it's telling you, let's first go to Utilities and Repair Body. It's going to highlight the areas that's already a problem, and let's work on that a bit more. Brings up a new toolbox. We select anywhere on the body, and you're going to get these star points. These are problem areas. The red ones are showing even more problem. It's hidden right now. So the next thing, up, down, auto repair. That would make the most sense. Let's try to fix this as is. All right, it automatically changed some things. Those red stars are no longer a problem. They're now yellow stars, so that's good. I already know there's still going to be a problem down there where that whole crease is, but there we are. Let's try that. Finish form. Still an error, but less errors. We're good. Return. The other option it's telling you to do is change the display mode. We touched on this last time, but under Utilities, and it's actually this top selection tool, display mode just simply shows a more broken down geometric version. So I can select the body, we'll go to display mode, and we'll go to box display. it just extrapolates things out and makes it a much more geometric display. It's just fewer polygons. It's flattening things out. And what this does is it makes it much easier to see what is in place and matching and what is very much not in place and actually self-intersecting. That's a problem. This is just a display mode. It's not actually changing anything. So what I can do is I can clearly see just that point needs to change. So, okay, let's go back to edit form. By vertex, I'm just going to grab that bottom vertex and let me use the pan tool to drag it up and back. No longer self-intersecting. I've modified it a little bit. This area still looks mildly problematic, but let's see what we can do with that. And the reason I'm saying it looks problematic is because I have this whole area here comes to sharp points down in here. The sharp angle down there. That's probably going to be a problem. But let's see what they're just moving that one vertex around got us. Hit finish form. That actually worked. So just that alone, it smoothed everything out and actually allowed us to get out of the form workspace into this. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Quetzalcoatl duck. Or Quetzalcoatl-luckily? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, somewhere in there. Okay, so that's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. So I will save there. Finish form. Yeah, I know I didn't spell it right. The utilities, the finish form is where you really, and I'll just go back to edit form just so you can see. The utilities tools make a lot of, or help a lot of things, but they can be very confusing. The repair body thing, I already fixed it, so it's okay. But the star points can be like, yeah, I can see that there is a problem. What is the problem? Sometimes it's not going to tell you. Sometimes it's not going to automatically fix it or be able to fix it. And that's where you need to be able to troubleshoot and see it. And the easiest way to see it is switching display modes to box mode, and you can usually see crossed out areas or self-intersecting areas, things like that, a little more clearly. You can manipulate this in box mode. I can continue to play with this with the edit tools, edit form, all of that in box mode. Things like if I wanted to turn the eyes into like more actual eyeballs, I could use the say like leaving it in box mode and maybe the crease tool. If I go around and select all of these edge lines here, now it's not going to display it because I'm in box mode. Let's go back to curvy mode. Now I've made those eyes flat. Or better yet, instead of curving those around, let's curve these over, or crease these over here. Let's crease all the way around that line. Hit OK. And now, God, that is horrifying. Now it more or less turns that whole area into an eye and flattens it. That's exactly why I had you rotate the sphere that way. You could even, there's more ways to add features now that it's a simplified, albeit more complex version. Let's go to the insert edge and try inserting an edge around that. I don't want both, just single. And let's shrink that back a little bit closer to the point there. Hit OK. And so something like that, I could now use like the edit form by edge, double click all the way around, and let's try scaling that up and see how, oh my God, and see how that now gives more of like a.
Why is it like a wheel? Oh, it's
Yeah. It does look a bit terrifying. So mainly change. Oh my God. So mainly the reason I did that, aside from to haunt your nightmares, is to show you the distinction between a creased edge and a curved edge. You can get a fair amount of sculpting features in with the form environment, even though the form environment in Fusion is not as detail oriented and potent as, say, like Blender or Maya or something like that. You can still get a fair amount of detail work in with this. But again, if you go to finish form and it gives you errors, it did not, And now, God, that looks like it's a mantis eyes now. Whatever. So
It looks like it has chameleon eyes.
exactly. That is now very much a predatory duck,
I'm scared.
more than they already are.
I'm very scared. But if its eyes are positioned at the sides of its head,
Looks like a
it suggests
pterodactyl.
that's a bird, that's a prey bird, not a bird, right?
Unless they can see everywhere at once. Oh no, we're gonna make it worse now by adding colors.
No.
So we're gonna make this worse now. We'll save it. Eyes added. Great. So now is where you'd start applying appearances. And I want to show you with that as well as a couple other small details here. But let's throw on some appearances just to make it worse.
No.
So pressing A on the appearance tool, or the letter A on your keyboard. You'll be fine-ish. And you can play around. Obviously, if you want to make it liquid metal, great. It's a T1000 duck.
D1000.
The D1000. That's pretty good. We've even got mirror. Oh God. And by the by, when you're looking at these that have a highly reflective surface, all I did is drag and drop onto my form. That reflection you're seeing is where the original image map was taken. So what these are normally taken in at, and if I zoom in here, you can see like this looks like almost like a hanger. It's exactly what it is. It was taken a highly reflective image map of an object, of a very shiny object that is reflecting everything around it, and it was taken inside of like a hangar, like an empty airplane hangar. That's what you're seeing. So in order to select appearances, you just drag and drop them. So if I want paint, open up the paint area, glossy, metallic, powder coat, rough coat. Some of these you'll see an arrow next to. You simply have to click the arrow to download it. Now, if you open up your file on another computer that does not have these downloaded, it won't show properly. You'll have to go through and download. It doesn't automatically download onto another computer. So if you're working on your own, it should work. But we were playing before, and I'm just going to keep doing this one. So we'll download the metallic yellow paint and drag and drop onto my duck. It will often give you an error. Hey, do you want to change everything? Yes, I do. Now, the problem is this is all by the entire thing, meaning the entire body. If you look at the top of your toolbox here, you can apply by faces. So now I could say, let's drag and drop the red, but only onto the crest. This is how you can change the colors of your model. This does not have any effect whatsoever when you output this model onto your 3D print or in your 3D printer. This is merely for modeling effect. So you can drag and drop these. This is going by the whole face, so good. I can do the same with, like, say, the eyes. Now, the problem is, all right, that was one big face for the crest. What about for the eyes there? Do I have to drag and drop every single one? Sometimes. Or you press and hold Shift on your keyboard, and you can go around and select individual ones. This does get tedious, admittedly, especially when you have complex stuff like this. You have to work your way around and select all the things. But once you get it all selected, trying to see what I do and do not have selected here. I can drag and drop that over, and now we have it on there. Or we'll just make it black, like a doll's eyes. But now I've got to select all of them over again. So we'll just leave it that way. Or you could bring that back up, select by faces. Be careful. If you close the appearance toolbox and open it back up, it will default back to by bodies components. You need to make sure to select the faces again. Pressing and holding Shift, I can select all around the center there. And again, drag and drop. Nope. Cancel. I don't know why it wasn't letting me do that. So select. Okay. Drag and drop onto there. And there we are. So that is one way to apply, to make things like eyes and things like that. The other way, on the other side, which is why all my models have, like, googly eyes here, you don't have to have every single feature as modeled. With this, I could just, all right, let's just drop a sphere in. Right smack in the middle. I can't see it, so let's make that, I don't know, 20. Well, that's huge. 15, slightly more reasonable. Operation, new body. Hit OK. And now I could just bring that eyeball. Oops. Come on. There we go. And I could just bring that out. And you could do it that way. Yeah, that is even worse. So the plan or the goal is, of course, to sketch or to model as much as you possibly can, but some things do end up better by adding a secondary object. This would count, aside from it being just really unnerving as being both, in that the bulk of the body has been modeled, but I've added in like the more detailed features with an additional object simply because it made more sense. We can add features as well by going back to our roots of the sketch and extrude. So we'll just save there first. Eyes. Now I want to show you how to add features using the sketch and either extrude or emboss. So if I want to say, like, if I couldn't get the beak to be like open or anything in the model when I was in the form environment, I could use sketch and extrude to cut a chunk out. What I mean by that is, let's start a sketch. We're done. We're finished modeling with the form. Take the YZ profile. So I'm sketching from the side, and let's simply draw a line from the center outward, and let's make it even more so. Connect the dots, and we have a wedge. Finish sketch. You can see that it's smack between. Let's go to extrude. Symmetric both sides. Drag it on out. And now we have a mildly unnerving beak. That edge line can become a useful tool as well. Things like the pipe tool can be applied to edges. Let's do a join.
Oh, why are you giving him lips? Oh, God.
And if you can, all the way around. I don't know why it's going all the way. That is
You did say
worse. That is worse.
Got one of those retainers for the.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you can use the pipe tool. We'll just change that from join to we'll just leave it optional as a new body. So you can obviously do that to the top as well. Sometimes you can't do it all the way around. Sometimes making it so much worse. Sometimes the pipe tool will not follow along all the edge lines, but these edges, like say I could go around the edge here, that will work also. I'm being able to follow along where the quote beak would be. And let's create that as an edge. Now, see, it's giving me an error down here. It's self-intersecting, so I might not be able to do the whole thing. I can maybe do this as one piece. So let's clear that and just maybe one. And let's reduce the size to like 0.5. This might be too complex. All right, that kind of isn't really doing much. But you can see that it is, in fact, creating a pipe all the way around that. And if I were to repeat that process, sometimes, like I said, you have to do this multiple times because it won't join all in one go. This can become a defining edge feature. So you can continue to add features like that. I had to reduce the diameter of the pipe significantly to make it work, but it does work. Save. We'll give it pipe edges. All right. And it's just so much worse all the way around.
How do you honk, fellow bird? Every time we talk, we just getting it cling.
Exactly. I'll just turn in. Yeah, I told you I was going to make it worse. Yeah. Now, I want to show you a simple way to make, we talked about, and we will do this later. Oh, I could make this so much worse. We could give it wings, but rather than big extruded wings, I want to show you how, like rubber ducky style, just kind of tucked onto the body. We're going to use the emboss tool for that. So again, sketch, right smack in the middle. If you would like, you can use project to make an outline of the duck form. But a simple way to make a wing-like shape, we're just going to use a fit point spline and drag around. Now, do not make this too complicated. Like when here you kind of want to have you want to go back and forth like that. That might be too complicated. But let's try it. Finish sketch. And this is floating in between. Let me go to, let me do a color shift. Oh, that's not helpful. That the default coloration for the component is yellow, and I picked yellow for the object. Not helpful. Anyway, my sketch is floating in the middle because I picked the origin plane and I'm building everything in the middle on the origin plane. Let's go to emboss. So create, emboss. My sketch profile is that. Faces. Now it's wanting to select everything. But one of the tricks is, even though as I mouse over the body, it's selecting the entire body or highlighting the entire body, I have to select the individual faces and it will emboss on the side that I'm selecting.
Where does emboss?
Under create. And hey, that worked. Actually, that worked really well. But don't forget, emboss is not a straight extrude. It's essentially offset face. So you're going to get that odd curvature. So don't go too far with it. Or you could deboss, which just cuts inward. So that's how I made like the little that's how I made the little indentations on the side of the on the dyno body there. So deboss would drop it downward. Both are functional, but it maintains the curvature of the object, shrinks it, pushes it in or out. You can repeat that for the other side, and that would work great. I do want to kind of go back just because of something. I'm going to shrink this a little bit. There we go. So you could have a debossed or embossed, whichever. Tell you what, we'll do one for the other side. I'm going to select that same sketch. It automatically hit it. So I want that sketch. Faces on this side. And we won't make it quite as extreme. We'll do 1 millimeter emboss so it's pushing outward. And there you go. It worked. Great. If it's pushing outward, what I often will do is, because it now has this strange undercut, I will now go around with a fillet and either on that outer edge or the inner one and just shrink that a bit. Let me try a 0.5. So I'll just put a little curvature so it's not quite as extreme. And that works nicely. So that's a really simple way of adding additional features onto the surface, either sketch extrude to cut inward, a pipe tool to actually make use of the edges that are created from this line, and sketch and emboss to either deboss, which is pushing inward, or emboss, this is going outward. The reason this works is the sketch is smack in the middle, so it can affect either side of the object. So those are a few of the ways to make your own nightmare fuel. So I'm going to check in, and we're going to make it get real weird next. So I'll save.
I haven't built anything up.
Wings. So this is essentially where you want to get to, ideally. Again, if we're just adding features, if you want to add anything additional, that's fine. You know, I was modeling the eyes built in as it is, or you could give it this just unnerving giant eyeball, but it kind of works because it's now got kind of an eye socket. Cool. Also that. But now,
Can't believe the duck has the glass.
Yeah. Or there's that, yeah. Let's make it weird. So what I mean by that is we did a little bit of modeling with the crest. I'm going to edit form. You do not have to do this. I'm going to go back into the form workspace. I know, and the good thing is because even though there's no history, I have just this ghost image of what was and what could be. So I'm going to go to edit form, face. Oh, I can't do that. That's going to mess up the whole thing. So I guess I'm going to have to add a wee bit of a little cut in, because what I'm going to do is give it arms. So I needed to divide that face up a little bit. Now I'm going to go to edit form, face, press and hold Alt to extrude, and drag outward. Exactly. And this is where sometimes it helps to switch. Oh, I don't want to make it irrational.
Oh yeah, that's what you're fine. Yeah.
Oh
I
no.
want to be irrational now.
We are not done. Yeah, that part. So I still have the faces selected. Now we can move things in and out. Oops. Oh, no, that's because I'm selecting the edge, not the face. And we can make it much, much worse. And if my nightmare duck-cocodylus or whatever here wants to give you hugs, well, it can't do that with just mittens. So let's insert edge right in the middle. Perfect. And now let's repeat that to give it more subdivisions. And let's go back, edit face. I have to do this individually, but where's the top view? Oh, that should have been top view. There we are. Press and hold Alt. Drag inward. Scale down. And repeat for multiple digits. Big Bird's getting claws.
I am uncomfy.
I know exactly.
I'm getting
this is awesome.
Tomorrow I'm gonna read my ovipositor on you for
Yeah, if your duck turns a little,
like someone's shaking up the bird.
well, because we're not done yet.
No, but like you know what I mean. The middle finger.
Yeah,
The bird.
the F toe.
Yeah, the bird. Look at the bottom left.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Doesn't it? I'm not the one who keeps
that's why it's called that.
Give me a big old here's the deal. Come on.
And again, this is just where things go completely off the rails and just get real weird. Real weird.
Joke's on you. I have motor control.
There we go. Now it can give hugs.
And
Yeah.
open doors.
Open doors. Now let's try the finished form.
Yeah.
Yes, it works. Oh, it buggered up my emboss. That's okay. We can try to reapply. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to show. Oh, God, that's so much worse.
That hand.
Is that the emboss doesn't work now because the surface is too complex. So obviously ways around this is, well, go back and change things around. We could also try to reapply. Let's try this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it will not. As in, I'm now selecting the faces. And of course, now it's applying it to the opposing side, but it looks like it'll work. Yeah, it's got dino damage now. Let's try reapply to the other side.
That has wings.
Working.
I mean, that exists.
And reapply my fillet.
No, they have wings and fingers.
So this is where one of the issues can come in with fillets. This is too sharp of a corner for it to apply. So you could either go back in and adjust the sketch or adjust the dimensions of your fillet. So with this one,
Is there a way to adjust the fillet to a gradient?
there are, yes, you can make inconsistent gradient or inconsistent fillets, but it can get a little funky. But Fusion now will allow you to do that.
To solve this problem.
So in order to apply that, you have to go back. But anyhow, you can now have a huggable, lovable friend.
Hug onto your finger.
It's perfectly sized to grab onto your temples.
There you go. And since this is ultimately this is supposed to be a keychain, last part is you would probably want to put a way to put a keychain on it. So I think the most effective method there would be with a Torus.
Right through the eye.
In between,
That's such a Torus.
somewhere-ish over here, which a Torus is just basically the donut tool. Let's do a join. And you can move that wherever you see fit. A 25 millimeter is kind of excessive. No, actually, that's pretty good. So, I don't know. We'll just make it an even 20. Joinifies. And there we go. That would be a reasonable place to put a keychain through. Or right through its skull. That's up to you. Thought about it.
I thought you were gonna go for like the top crestal area.
We thought about it. But ultimately, this would just be a way for it to give you hugs still. So, you can continue to modify and manipulate your forms significantly, and that's something we'll cover in the next class in more detail. But just know that pressing and holding Alt or Command on Mac will allow you to extrude faces. You could extrude edges as well, like we did with the neck originally when we deleted the faces to create the neck. You can actually extrude just those edges as well, and it creates more of like a cylinder tube, like kind of like a straw. But anyhow, it's got some version of wings. It's got a necessary claw arms. It has a horrifying eye and a not less horrifying eye and a crest. So you make your duck however you want it to be. Make it as complex and terrifying as you want, but apply appearances individually as well. So good luck with it. Hopefully it doesn't become too horrible, or at least it doesn't become non-functional to where you can't get it out of the form workspace. With that, there's your repair utilities, or at worst, you kind of have to do it manually. So good luck with it. Enjoy. Go from there.